I could very clearly see that when Sir was sharing the various milestones that the National Stock Exchange has achieved, all of us were resonating here with beaming smiles. Now that's one important thing that you can do as Viksit Bharat ambassadors. Share this positive news through social media, through your various channels, and spread the positivity and the India success story. So before I invite Mr. Hitesh Jain to tell us a little bit more about the Viksit Bharat Ambassador Program, we have a special video message by our chief guest here on why you should become a Viksit Bharat Ambassador. Can we have the AV, please?
July 2012, as the sun set, 62 crore Indians were engulfed in darkness. India witnessed the largest ever power outage. Mumbai, 26/11. I'm sure you haven't forgotten how those who came from across the border killed everybody who believed in humanity and democracy. And while people were being killed on the streets of Mumbai, quietly sat in Delhi the then government led by the Congress party. And why am I recounting these two events? Because one more event took place in 2014 when the Pradhan Sevak, Narendra Modi, took oath of office. With him began a new era of development. In these 10 years, Modi has built not only highways, but has ensured that every village in our country is connected by road. In these 10 years, Modi has also ensured that apart from Vande Bharat, that is today in the service of millions of Indians, we Indians can proudly celebrate when the ISRO ensures we land on the dark side of the moon. Development now delivers in our democracy. We today are on a new path with a new aim that by 2047, we, Indians, will be party to complete development. Viksit Bharat. The question is, while we are on this journey of development, how will you contribute? Can you become the network of influence so that people who want to contribute to policy can connect directly with the Prime Minister? Yes, you heard me right. You can connect directly with the Prime Minister. All you need to do is download the Namo app and become a Viksit Bharat ambassador. We are on our way, 2047, to being a completely developed nation. The time is now. The time is right. What are you waiting for? Become a Viksit Bharat ambassador. Contribute. Act now.
Like our Honorable Prime Minister says, यही समय है, सही समय है, और विकसित भारत एम्बेसडर बनने का यही समय है. With that, let me invite Shri Hitesh Jain ji, senior lawyer and part of the core team of the Viksit Bharat Ambassador Program, to tell us more about what are the roles that we must play as ambassadors.
Thank you. Honorable Smriti Irani ji, Union Minister of India and Senior Bharatiya Janata Party leader. Shri Ashish Chauhan ji, my good friends Vishal and Yashraj, and my dear friends. I'm very overwhelmed and heartening to see everyone on a Friday evening at 4:30, where you have taken some time out to try and understand about Viksit Bharat and Viksit Bharat Ambassador Program. Friends, I want to share a simple anecdote and want to tell you what is the impact of this Viksit Bharat Ambassador Program. Just 10 days before, we were in Delhi. Smriti ji was there as a chief guest. We were in Delhi University, and we had close to 8,000 to 10,000 students who had come to attend the program and wanted to know more about the Viksit Bharat Ambassador Program. One of the young girls at the end of the program walked up to Smriti ji and said that, listen madam, we have been staying in the Delhi University. There are a lot of working women, but there is one issue. We don't have a residential accommodation. And you would be pleased to know that immediately Smriti ji attended to the request, called her officers then and there, action plan was implemented, and in 72 hours, she has sanctioned the residential accommodation for the working woman and the hostel. Now, this is the impact of the Viksit Bharat ambassador, and when you have somebody like Smriti ji who leads by example and delivers by example, you can see the glimpse of the Viksit Bharat or the new India that is. The action was unbelievable. I saw it in front of my eyes. She was so concerned. She said, get me that girl from the 10,000 girls. She spoke to her. She called the people from the ministry and said, I want this thing to be done ASAP. Now, this is the action and the delivery of this government. Now, I'm sure she will deliver more on what Viksit Bharat is about. But let me come to the topic directly. As the trades are executed in NSC directly, I will also come for my selfish interest, why I am in front of you. Friends, Viksit Bharat Ambassador is a program. It is the largest public participation. This is the ये सबसे बड़ा जन भागीदारी अभियान ना सिर्फ इस दशक का बट इस पूरे सेंचुरी का ये सबसे बड़ा जन भागीदारी आंदोलन प्रोग्राम है. It is a public participation program where we seek your participation also, because if we want India to be developed, it is you, me, everyone who's going to be the stakeholder in this process of development. Just to give you some examples of Viksit Bharat Ambassador and its role. Now, when we say that country has to be developed, slogans and everything, how we can participate. For example, if many of you are startup young owners, you have your own products, you also purchase your products, but when you buy the Make in India products and you also promote it, you are a Viksit Bharat ambassador. If you are going for any holiday destination in India and you can highlight about whatever the good adventures you had or your great experiences about the holiday in India, that is a Viksit Bharat ambassador. If you are following the traffic rules, you are a Viksit Bharat ambassador. If you are paying your taxes on time, you are a Viksit Bharat ambassador. So friends, Viksit Bharat ambassador is a program which will be run by us, and we are going to be equal stakeholders with the government of the day. And I'm sure with our participation, this program will ensure that if 2047 is the goal that has been set up by our Honorable Prime Minister to make India a Viksit Bharat or a developed nation, we will achieve it much earlier, before 2047. Friends, one more request. We are also requesting you that this is a program we are running via app, and there is a Narendra Modi app where we are sharing all the details. My sincere request to you is, please download the app so that you can get the details about the program. We are also sharing the highlights of the government, the positive progress about the government, which will be useful for you, and you can share in your with your friends, family and neighborhood, so that we can also share whatever the positive development that is happening around the country, we can share all this news. I don't want to take much longer. I'm sure you are all here to listen to Smriti ji. Thank you very much for coming on Friday evening. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure a lot of you at a lot of points of time would have thought that we want to contribute to national development, and how can we be part of the same? The Viksit Bharat Ambassador Program is your answer to that particular question. Also, it is testament to the commitment of this government, which is maximum governance, minimum government, and making each and every one of us a part of the governance structures. Now, what Hitesh sir was talking about is actually a landmark example, and we actually have a video here to showcase what impact was made. So on the eve of International Women's Day, we had 10,000 students, women students, in the DU indoor stadium, which was also historical in itself to only have a women's gathering there at the Nari Shakti Conclave of the Viksit Bharat Ambassador Program. And as sir said, there was a request made by a student. Within a record time of 5 days, 270 crores was allotted for additional hostels and CCTV installations to be done for the safety of these women students. You don't have to just believe my words. Watch the video and believe it for yourself that this is the power of the Viksit Bharat ambassadors. Can we have the video, please?
सामने कह रही हूँ, और ये मैं महिला बाल विकास मंत्री होने के नाते बोल सकती हूँ, ये मेरे अधिकार क्षेत्र में है। मैं आपको अगर यहाँ पर एक्स्ट्रा हॉस्टल बनाने के लिए व्यवस्था चाहिए योगेश जी, मैं अपने डिपार्टमेंट से आपका वो प्रस्ताव पारित कर दूंगी। कितने हॉस्टल आपको लड़कियों के लिए बनाने हैं, दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में क्या कैपेसिटी चाहिए, आप प्रस्ताव दीजिए, प्रस्ताव कल के कल पारित हो जाएगा।
7 मार्च 2024 को यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ दिल्ली ने एक प्रोग्राम किया, विकसित भारत एम्बेसडर नारी शक्ति कॉन्क्लेव। अब आप देखिए विकसित भारत एम्बेसडर्स की ताकत क्या है। ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर ऑफ वुमेन एंड चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट उस प्रोग्राम में आई, मैडम स्मृति ईरानी। स्टूडेंट्स ने उनको रिक्वेस्ट किया कि हमारे दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में हॉस्टल कम है, तो हमारे को कुछ पैसे दे दो। मैडम मिनिस्टर ने प्रॉमिस किया और कल भारत की सरकार ने 272 करोड़ रुपया दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी को सैंक्शन किया। केवल 7 दिन के अंदर, अनप्रेसिडेंटेड, अनहर्ड, 7 दिन के अंदर सरकार से पैसा आना, ये बदलता भारत है, ये न्यू इंडिया है और ये विकसित भारत एम्बेसडर्स की ताकत है।
Clearly, Modi ki guarantee is just not a slogan, but this government lives to every word of it. And what you saw there in the last clip was actually a footage from today where the DU Vice Chancellor, Professor Yogesh Singh, announced it in Delhi University that this particular plan was sanctioned. With that, I would like to invite the force behind this change, Srimati Smriti Irani ji, to deliver the keynote address for what everyone has been anxiously waiting for.
A very early evening to all of you. My colleague Hitesh is a bit stupefied as to why on a Friday evening do we have such a galaxy of people who have assembled at the NSC. Well, if you're a Mumbaiker, you should not be surprised. We work 24/7. Ladies and gentlemen, I came to this city 30 years ago with a bag full of dreams and ambition. And that is why today, before I begin my presentation with regards to the journey that has been undertaken by the country under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, a little introduction to those who may only know me from the limited scope of my media career or the fact that I'm the MP of Amethi. I've had the privilege of working with Prime Minister Modi now for 2 decades. I've had the privilege of being a member of parliament twice in the Rajya Sabha. I now represent a constituency which has seen 5 decades of dynasty and just 5 years of a working woman's service as the BJP candidate. I've had the privilege of being announced by the World Economic Forum as the Young Global Leader in 2015, but much of that credit goes to my boss, under whose aegis I had the opportunity to serve as Minister Education, doing the base document of what is now known as the National Education Policy, creating the first ever MOOCs platform for India called Swayam, on which today study close to 2 crore Indian students, leveraging over 2,500 various institutional academic pursuits. I've had the privilege of serving our country as Minister Textile, where during the lockdown, we created for the first time the PPE industry in our country, a country which did not have machines or raw material for PPE. In 3 months, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, became the 2nd largest exporter of PPE in the world. And today I stand before you to take you through a journey which has been a POCL. And I'm grateful that Kritika is being kind enough to help in the presentation. A decade of opportunity leveraged. We look at the pursuit of excellence, be it in sports, space, science, or startups, laying the foundation of an ambition called Viksit Bharat. But if I take you to a decade before, what was our country like? For those who are interested in research, in the year 2003-04, the Economic Survey of India depicted numbers that were celebrated. Under Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a resilient economy at 8% growth, the services sector growing at 7% and above, and agriculture growing at 9% and above. And then in 2004, came an amalgamation of political interests that put their personal ambitions before national interest. And that is why when India was deigned as a part of the Fragile Five, not many were shocked. But what brought India from the Vajpayee era of resilience to the Fragile Five? I would beg your indulgence to reflect on a few numbers. If you've read the white paper that has been presented through the Parliament of India to the people of India, you will, in those sheafs of paper, recognize that if you look at our banking sector in the UPA decade, the gross advances by public sector banks during Vajpayee era was 6.6 lakh crores. But by the time the UPA served political interests for their political parties, our advances by public sector banks stood at 39 lakh crores. In the decade that was lost with regards to development, 3.8 lakh crores worth of loans were not recognized as problem assets. Across 14 major social sectors, government funds had over 94,000 crore of rupees unspent. If you just looked at the health of economy, but also the out-of-pocket expenditure vis-a-vis health and the individual citizen, they took a hit of close to 64.2%. If you've seen the film that was shown before Hitesh spoke, we highlighted the power outage in July 2012, which gave the gift of darkness to 62 crore Indians. However, to reminisce, and sadly so, 2012, the headlines also read that India had a shortage of combat-ready equipment and ammunition for the Indian armed forces. And then, from a decade of political lethargy, came 2014, where the politically empowered people of India decided to vote for a Pradhan Sevak. In the last decade, from Fragile Five to 2022, India being celebrated as a bright spot, today we cheer harder still for the year 2047, where we together can celebrate the end of the Amrit Kal and the beginning of an era called Viksit Bharat. What was the health of the economy then? The numbers here, and I think this is a floor where men and women alike are accustomed to reading graphs better than I am. But if you look at the number with regards to inflation, 12.1 is the number with regards to double-digit inflation that India saw in the financial year 2010. And in the 10 years of the UPA era, the average inflation was close to 8.7%. With regards to Modi's decade, we have seen the average inflation rate tapering at around 4.8. While these numbers have a story to tell of their own, and I'm hopeful that if the camera person can give us a little space. You see the numbers with regards to exports and forex reserves. From a fragile five of exports of $300 billion to now India being the bright spot and exports worth $770 billion. Forex reserves going up from $270 billion to $600 billion. And ladies and gentlemen, these are numbers only from September to December 2023. I can see a few naysayers possibly think and reflect on the graphs themselves. But then that's what being a Viksit Bharat ambassador is all about. Tell us your numbers, we will give you our analysis and possibly learn from you better. But if we look at the India story, how did we go from the fragile five to now being a bright spot? So while, again, Ashish, you're used to the numbers which are ranking up right now on the screen, let me tell you how did we go from 2014 to 24 on a transformative journey. Reform, perform, transform, and inform. But what is not on this slide is the diktat by Prime Minister Modi to bureaucrats and policymakers like me, which said, perform or perish. So Prime Minister Modi had an 11-point agenda, still does, to ensure that welfare reaches the last mile, to ensure that while we dedicate ourselves to welfare, we also recognize the need for economic reform, that we become the most vibrant digital democracies of the world, that we give gati to our Shakti vis-a-vis infrastructure, that we take pride in ensuring our economic sovereignty, which you know as Make in India, that we proudly leverage our civilizational history, balance it with our economic interests, and leave a special mark in the global order. That when we speak of governance, people recognize it as a synonym for honesty. And for the first time, we have a head of government who says, for long in this country, we have spoken of emancipation of women. However, if you want to empower a nation, women have to be equal partners, and that is why the tectonic shift of women's development to women-led development. That while he dedicated himself to issues of governance, he was also cognizant of the desires and the aspirations of the young. Equally fascinated with Khelo India, ensuring that India is secure, and like I said, redefining the world order instead of just being a recipient of a redefined world order. Now, when we talk about the welfare to the last mile, many of you may be flummoxed when you see the word Antyodaya. For the term welfare itself has a connotation that it is a handout. But Prime Minister Modi possibly is the first head of government in the world who has made an economic case for welfare. How so? He spoke about ensuring that the unbanked have access to financial instruments and institutions. He made sure that those who had aspirations, ambitions, had the funds to back it. He made sure that the public distribution system is digitized and the beneficiary at the last mile not only identified, but also supported by those welfare measures that the taxpayer invests in. For the first time in our country, skill was recognized as a national need and a template for governance. That in a country where the service sector was flourishing, we did not leave behind our farmers, and we also digitized agricultural opportunities for one nation through one market for agricultural produce, recognizing that only access to finance is not important alone, however, to also ensure that insurance becomes a safety instrument. Now, when I talk about banking the unbanked, that's where a lot of the India story needs to be told incessantly. Many who are young in this audience may not remember the era where a head of government in our country proudly once proclaimed that when Indian treasury let go of 1 rupee to the streets of our villages reached only 10 paisa. Never before in the history of our country did we have a political leader say that the political system usurped 90% of the benefits. And that is why Prime Minister Modi, when he took office, his first agenda was to ensure that those citizens who did not have a bank account now met with support from the banking sector. While this slide speaks about the second and the third order impact, let me take you back to those who were unbanked. One could never imagine that a simple solution called Jan Dhan would create a financial revolution. The number I'm about to espouse is unmatched in the global economic order. 500 million bank accounts opened in less than 5 years by a country of 1.4 billion people. And what transpired is a participation in the democracy by the people and the Prime Minister. And that is why the number that you see up there, Ujjwala Yojana, tells another fascinating story of the people's participation with the Prime Minister in transforming India. Before the Prime Minister decided that every poor household will have clean cooking fuel, he implored to every Indian, give up your subsidy if you can afford it. 1 crore Indians, and ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you, this was one of his first steps in office. This was a new Prime Minister. But such was the belief of the people of India in him that 1 crore people gave up their gas subsidies, and the Prime Minister promised and delivered. Today, 10 crore 36 lakhs poor women have clean cooking fuel in their families, all thanks to citizens who were proactive. The next might not fascinate many gentlemen, but ladies possibly would recognize what it means. It has as much of an impact in rural India as possibly it does in a city like Mumbai. We know of women in our country who waited for sundown, who waited for darkness, all so that they could relieve themselves outside. And what this slide does not show you is a number that you could possibly, through your research, reflect on. 6% loss with regards to India's GDP, as per the World Bank report, in 2011-12, all because we did not have toilets. 2013, a report comes forth. 48% women sexually assaulted, all because they did not have a toilet at home and they needed to relieve themselves. And for the first time in the history of our country, came a Prime Minister who during Independence Day from the ramparts of the Red Fort said, if we truly believe in supporting women, can we give them a dignified start to their day? Can we build toilets? Never a politically attractive promise, never made, but delivered by Modi. 11 crore plus toilets constructed for individual poor families across the country. Now, since we are the NSC and numbers are your second name, the Jal Jeevan Mission, 14 crore households with tap water. Not many in Mumbai, possibly this young generation which is here today, but those who have possibly lived 3 decades ago in Goregaon would remember Pani Wali Bai. Fights at the water tanker with buckets lined up Women and children trying to keep themselves a spot all so that they could have one bucket of clean water to drink at home, depending and looking out for the next tanker to come. Now, if you just imagine a family size of 4 people per home, what does that 14 crore homes tells you? 56 crore Indians without tap water, who now have tap water at home because people like you voted for Modi. And look at Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. 4 crore homes built. The number of homes built in independent India from 1947 till 2014, when Prime Minister Modi came into office, was less than 80 lakhs. And from 2014, as of this day, in just a decade, 4 crore homes built. As a woman, I can say that there have been many studies done where women own capital assets. Domestic violence cases against such communities lessen. But what has been the economic impact to build those 4 crore homes? 3 crore direct and indirect jobs were created. Never before have we had a number of 25 crore Indians who have escaped poverty, multi-dimensional poverty. And if I just juxtapose the last slide with this one, you remember the 11 crore toilets we spoke of that were built? Agencies such as the UNDP, UNICEF, UN Women, when they computed savings per household for better health outcomes, only for those 11 crore toilets built, the savings were 8,000 rupees. Not much for those who possibly are seated here today, but means a lot for a family that was struggling to make ends meet. So when we look at the numbers of multidimensional poverty, many amongst you will be surprised to know that of this, 13.5 crore people came out of poverty only because Prime Minister Modi's health initiatives made an impact. What were those health initiatives? You've heard of Ayushman Bharat? If I can just give you a small glimpse, whoever can Google possibly will research a PIB release in October 2023. It's always, I think, cautious and ambitious to ensure that you quote and cite the correct document, because normally people don't believe politicians. So, Ayushman Bharat in the year 2023, in October, saved 1 lakh crore rupees for Indians who were covered under that scheme. Why? 5.7 crore hospital admissions only up to October 2023, which were worth 70,000 crores. These 5.7 crore hospital admissions were supported by the government of India free under Ayushman Bharat Yojana. And that is why today I can proudly say as an Indian that 13.5 crore Indians came out of multi-dimensional poverty only because of the health initiatives of Prime Minister Modi. This slide can be serviced better by stalwarts such as Ashish and Hitesh. But the banking reforms, recapitalization, resolution and recovery with regards to the IBC, all these are issues that you have all spoken on, debated about, deliberated upon. But if you look at the economic reforms that have fueled growth, Many of those who are stalwarts in business institutions have spoken about ease of doing business. Close to, and the number here is a bit conservative, close to 50,000 compliances were done away with. After the government and industry sat together, not only the Fortune 500 companies, but also the SMEs, they sat together with the government, highlighting which compliances hinder economic prospects, and those compliances were either decriminalized or done away with. And that is why, from our construction permit ranking, which improved from 184 in 2014 to 27 in 2019, to the electricity ranking, which improved from 137 in 2014 to 22 in 2019, to India now ranked 13th in protecting minority investors and 25th in getting credit. Much reform, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like you to consider, happened while the pandemic struck. We were the only government in the world that did not stop reform, but continued to perform, even when the world had shut down due to an epidemic. This is a slide I'm particularly proud about, because be it Aditya L1 or the Mars mission or Chandrayaan, women shouldered the participation of men equally, and India wrote and rewrote space history. Today we have 160 plus space sector startups. As you can see, Hyderabad-based startup Skyroot Aerospace launched India's first private sector rocket Vikram S. 7,000 plus agri and allied startups for agricultural solutions to enhance farm productivity are currently functional, and 100% FDI in space sector will also promote more startups, is our assessment. As I said at Davos recently, we use up less money in our space sector than it takes to produce a Tom Cruise movie. We do it well, we do it successfully, but we do it for the world. So how did we formalize the Indian economy? Taking you back again to the first banking of the unbanked, conjoining it with the government's effort to create digital identities. Today, 99% Indians have a digital identity that can help them get governance solutions. What happens when the unbanked find banking interface? If you can see at the top, ladies and gentlemen, it's the PM Mudra Yojana. Now, this was not a gendered financial instrument. It was a financial instrument offered to people who had a business enterprise idea, but did not have the collateral to get a loan. Of all the loans given under PM Mudra, 30 crore loans only went to female-led enterprises. Now, at the floor of the NSC, it may look easy. But who are these 30 crore women who got the loan? Remember, out of the 500 million bank accounts, 230 million bank accounts, 23 bank accounts is those of women who've opened a bank account for the first time in their lives. These are women nobody would even look at from a perspective of business opportunity. But imagine this, they knew a loan like Mudra existed, they created a business plan, they went to their local bank branch, they could convince branch officer that their business idea works. They got the loan, and as a woman, I'm very proud that the NPA is less than 2.5%. So women in this country, in partnership with Prime Minister Modi, made a financial case for investment in women-led and owned businesses. Then the naysayers spoke about Stand Up India, where the Prime Minister said, why should I only limit credit support to 10 lakh rupees? Let's bring it up to 1 crore. But he had only one condition, that make sure women And those from the SC/ST community who own businesses also get that loan. 40,000 crore rupees given out under Stand Up India. And again, proud, 80% of those loans taken by women. Look at Swanidhi. Never in our economic history did we have a credit framework for street vendors. Today, I'm proud to share that in the short span of 1 year, 62 lakh street vendors in our country have received credit support worth 11,000 crores, which means that they have institutionalized their businesses with a financial institution and now are a part of the formal economy. That over 6 crore 43 lakh people are now registered with the Employment Provident Fund organization since 2017. 29 crore people with their latent talent as the labor market have now been issued e-Shram cards. This is the most talented skill set in the world which now has a government identity. Of course, new labor laws which were introduced, again, since I'm the only woman speaking here amongst 4 men, I can proudly say that sectors such as underground mining opened up for women. Never happened before. So from formalizing the Indian economy, obviously you'll see a spike in the growth, 8.4% in Q3 of 23-24, manufacturing up 11%, construction over 9%. Since people also seek validation from overseas, the Jeffries report is here for people to possibly take a splice out of. And then onwards, the World Poverty Clock. The world admitting that for the first time, less than 3% of the Indian population is now under extreme poverty. So what happens when you digitize a democracy? There is a gentleman to the bottom of the screen,
Go to your village fair,
known to almost everybody in this
potatoes and,
august audience.
tomatoes, and pay 7 rupees.
And
50
somebody has been
paisa
kind
by
enough to
credit
even
card.
rack up
What
his
will the poor
volume.
lady do? Does she have a POS machine there? Is it
We
connected to
spoke
a
about our
electricity
inability
source?
as
Is there
Indians
Wi-Fi there? Is the internet
to
working
digitally
there?
pay.
Do you know that
Possibly
every
bothered
village has got
about
a
the
village
sabzi
fair?
wala, the thele wala, the auto wala, the taxi wala, not knowing it's the chai wala that was introducing the digital payment systems in India. So what did the chai wala do? And the music is brilliant, thank you very much. So what the chai wala did was reduce the time taken at the toll gate from 34 seconds to 47 seconds. Now I was told that only Ashish keeps a lookout at the NSC as to how many microseconds does it take for the NSC to respond. I would like to tell Ashish, my boss is a bit way ahead of you. He even tags how many seconds it takes by FASTag at each toll naka in the country to see that we reduce that number. At the NSC, Ashish Chauhan has dedicated himself to see how many digital documents are now available for interface so that analysis can be informed better. Well, my boss has ended up digitizing 8 crore land parcels in the country, 114 crore plus mobile connections. Ashish just told me that the NSC does numbers better than the rupee card. Well, as long as we are part of Team India. 34 crore rupee cards, which I'm sure the gentleman to the bottom end of the screen would take umbrage to. Pokhara users on MyGov. Now, if you've known of governments before which come to people every 5 years to ask for a vote, This is a government that opened a digital platform to ask the people about their thoughts on every policy instrument, including the budget. And then when a budget idea fructifies, the gentleman camera person here, just move that gentleman is a bit disturbed. He would like to see Mr. Chidambaram better. Yes. So imagine this, 4 crore people on a platform called MyGov, where they communicate directly with the Prime Minister to tell the Prime Minister what they feel the budget should include or any policy can include. And that is democracy, ladies and gentlemen, thriving right before you. The fact today we have services across 6 lakhs common service centers, of which over 50% are managed by women, speaks about the 6 lakh plus villages in the country that are digitally serviced through the Umang app as well. Now, Gati Shakti, many who have shown interest in infrastructure would know that we have over 1,600 layers of information in the government of India that helps us design where the next infrastructure project comes. This is not only about building sea links and Atal tunnels. This is also about building Anganwadis. We map geographically every square inch of India to see where infrastructure like schools, hospitals, bus stops are needed. Apart from highways, apart from the metro system. And that is why, if you look at the number, in 2023-24, 10 lakh crore rupees capex was available. This budget announcement was for 11 lakh crores plus. Why? Because we are digitally mapping every square inch of the country to see where the taxpayers' money can be judiciously used to build better infrastructure. What has happened? Construction of highways has increased by 2.4%. Metro has expanded by 368%. And rural roads today are made at 91 kilometers per day. Highways at over 34 kilometers per day. We have added 25 metric tons worth of capacity to our major ports, 22,300 kilometers plus of natural gas pipeline are currently operational. Our airports, as you know, have doubled. So has construction of AIIMS, medical colleges, nursing colleges. All of this gets mapped at the Gati Shakti. And for those who may be interested, how does the government use 1,600 layers of information with regards to infrastructure? The Prime Minister does a meeting called Pragati. He sits with every state government official. If there is a pipeline that is not constructed within the time period that was set, a road that has a blockage, a possible new sea link that needs to be in some way constructed, the Prime Minister speaks to even the district magistrate to see how he can help to build infrastructure better in the country. So how fast are we building? We are building fast enough for the European Commission to have interest in us. And this is their satellite data. How fast are we building? We are building fast enough for the European Commission to do a satellite data indicating the difference between growth during the UPA era and the NDA era. That's how fast we are building. These are just some of the examples of how Gati Shakti helps us build better and use the taxpayers' money judiciously. And now we are making in India, but we are making for the world. What is the first example? Vaccine Maitri. There were many naysayers when the pandemic hit, and we were supposed to stand in a global line for pharmacology and vaccination. When Prime Minister Modi stepped up and said, we as a country have the capacity scientifically and from the perspective of manufacture to also make in India with regards to vaccines, not many believed him. There were some from the opposition that literally screamed out, import it. What we ended up doing was exporting the Make in India vaccine to 160 countries. and delivering it to 140 crore people. Khadi, that is something which is an area, especially with regards to handcraft and the Gandhian legacy, which has seen an increase with regards to the revival of the cottage industry. But Kritika now eggs me on to the big bucket issues of milestones of Make in India. She wants me to talk about the Boeing and the Airbus manufacturing plant. She wants me to talk about the 23 times increase in defense exports, tractors export up by 3 times. 99% of all mobile phone shipments were made in India in 2023. Electrical equipment export up by 3 times. India now is the 3rd largest automobile market in the world. For some, this part of the presentation may be an element of faith. But for those who don't believe in this God, but a God called money, let me monetize what cultural renaissance is all about. Ram Mandir, 550 years of wait. This is the oldest legal battle in the world. What I appreciate my Prime Minister for is that he had an absolute majority, but he waited for the courts to deliver justice. And that after the justice was delivered, every fragment of our society came together. But on the top there is the ensign of the Indian Navy. The gentleman here who's busy with his phone, if you could just shift a little. Yes, lovely. Nini mala baga. Now imagine, I'm just showing you the flag of the Indian Navy. That flag had the Victoria Cross during the UPA. I'm grateful that the Prime Minister could inspire the seal of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj on the flag of the Indian Navy. $344, in fact now the number is close to 400, artifacts stolen from our country, brought back, given back with dignity and with deference to the people of India under Prime Minister Modi's leadership since 2014. But for those who would like to see the numbers, you remember when Prime Minister Modi as Chief Minister Gujarat built the Statue of Unity. There were many in the opposition who spoke about it as a wasteful expenditure. That we could pay homage to the man that brought India together under one flag, one constitution, and that his contribution is priceless, is something possibly the opposition did not understand. The fact that the opposition spoke about Baba Saheb Ambedkar, but 5 of the most priceless remnants of that history today are under the control of India and Indians, courtesy Prime Minister Modi. The fact that it took us over 7 decades to have the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. But since we are at the NSC, let me quantify, if you can just go back to that slide. If you look at the Statue of Unity, and you just look at the ticket sales, as of 2023, ticket sales have hit 400 crores. If you go the slide before, and there's a glimpse of Kashi, Kashi Vishwanath now has a Kashi corridor. When the past 2 years, the footfall is 8 crore Indians. And imagine this, if that Indian had just spent 100 rupees And then we come to my favorite subject, women-led development. We speak about maternity leave, which is now available for 26 weeks. Mudra Yojana, giving loans to women. Of the 4 crore homes today, 2.5 crore homes are owned completely by women, but the other 1.5 are co-owned by women. For the first time, women have permanent commission in the Indian Armed Forces. Young girls now are admitted in Sainik schools so that they can rise to the ranks of being officers. In the Gender Equality Index, we are trying to make the world understand that we have today 1.5 million women who are elected to office in our panchayats. But look at that little box which says ban on triple talaq. A woman who marries a man, maybe out of choice, maybe out of family compulsions, could have just been left by pronouncing talaq thrice, would have no power to gain maintenance support for herself or her children. This was an issue that could have been legislated upon in 70 years of our freedom. But it took a Modi who did not care for vote bank politics to ban triple talaq in our country. And I had the privilege of witnessing history when we passed in the new Parliament building 33% reservation for women in the Indian Parliament under Prime Minister's leadership. So what does honesty in governance get you? Imagine 10 crore fake beneficiaries existed. Now, Ashish ji, you guys are the number people. Imagine in the decade that was lost during the UPA, these 10 crore fake beneficiaries just taking benefits of 100 rupees per month. Do the math. That was the leakage. 10 crore fake beneficiaries, 10 years, $100 every month. The taxpayers' money, the treasury's money, India's money. Today, we not only have saved over 2 lakh crores under Prime Minister's leadership, we also have the first public procurement platform called GEM, where anything any government has to buy has to be done digitally, transparently, and 680,000 lakh crore worth of merchandise by governments across the country have been brought. Khelo India, you may have seen many smiling faces who have increased India's capacity to celebrate at many international events. Now imagine having an ambition called Target the Olympic Podium. Many would say it is politically foolhardy because when you invest in an athlete, you're not guaranteed success. However, Prime Minister Modi said, these are the young ambitions we need to invest in. If we don't believe in them, why would the rest of the world? So 285 athletes undertaken under the TOPS program, 98 core groups made. He created something called Khelo India, where from schools and colleges came 32,000 plus young kids, 30,000 kids supported. Additionally, 1,300 coaches and support staff who were supported, 297 sports projects sanctioned, 267 academies across the country which were supported. What was the outcome? Our medal tally increased by 52% from 2018 onwards. We got 75% more gold medals since 2018. Women athletes, the tally of medals went up by 50%. And our athletes started bringing in medals in new categories. 16 new such categories were announced. For those who saw my video request, how many of you were here during 26/11? I had family at Taj, a daughter who had just left Leopold with her batchmates. We all remember how we waited and waited and waited for somebody to turn up. And that is why, when I look at 2012, that the armed forces did not have combat-ready equipment. Imagine this. Remember when Article 370 was removed? People said, खून की नदी बह जाएगी. एक बूंद भी नहीं टपकी कहीं पे. Our defense expenditure has doubled since. We are now at 6,23,000 crores, but also serviced by the Make in India initiative, so that our defense readiness is domestic. As you can see, since I am at the NSC, the graphs tell the story of how we have seen a downward, mercifully trend in the riots in our country. And how do we redefine the world order? Every Indian now knows, and I remember now Sushma Swaraj, who as the Minister of External Affairs said, तुम जहाँ भी हो भारत की सरकार पहुँच जाएगी और तुम्हें बाहर निकाल लेगी. So what happens when two countries go to war and you have 27,000 kids stuck? All you need is a call from Modi. The two opposing sides come to a halt. 27,000 kids come back home. And then kids from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from other countries say, can we get the Indian flag so that we can get back home? That's what India stands for now in the global order. That India becomes the president of the G20 goes to 200 destinations within the country. And for the first time, brings the world order together to acknowledge that Africa needs a space of respect and women cannot be at the sidelines of the G20, and we create the first working team ever in the G20's history for women and young girls across the world. That we achieve the global feat of 220 billion COVID vaccines without creating a diplomatic storm. We will want to reminisce that there have been countries that were giving chits, handwritten, about which vaccine to get where. And here in India, we were using the CoWIN app. There were countries that were running out of toilet paper. And here in India, we continue to deliver not only the vaccine, but also at the doorstep of 80 crore Indians, food continuously since 2020. And Modi has promised he will do it again for the next 5 years because you're voting him back to office. As Kritika said, yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai. Who knew that the chaiwala who did yoga only in Gujarat could get a UN resolution passed and over 170 countries were suddenly doing yoga? Who knew that we would talk about bajre ki roti and millets would become an instrument of change from a perspective of sustainability at the G20? Who knew Prime Minister Modi would become the only Indian Prime Minister to address the US Congress twice? And yes, now we are cruising forward, so much so that the indices say that things are turning around. From those who were circumspect about India in 2013 to those who are now buoyant about our prospects. We have ranked better. We always knew we could innovate. Now the world recognizes it. We are at position 40. I'm hoping that by the time 2047 comes, we will be the global innovators ranked at #1. Ease of doing business, our retail development index, global manufacturing indices, they all tell the Amrit Kal story and what are the growth indicators. The map of 2012 and 2021. Nighttime luminosity has surged by 43%. When we talk about development reaching Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, those who look at the influx of global compatibility centers in India now know that over 2,500 GCCs will be functional in the next 1 year in India. Currently, GCCs are 1,800 in number, employing 1.5 million Indians in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. Electrification, 100%. And might I say, as a Methi MP, 40 villages in my constituency had never seen an electric pole in 70 years of democracy. We are now completely. And that, ladies and gentlemen, just sums up 1 decade of work. The question I leave you with is this, is this 1 decade enough? We are ambitious, we are innovative, we are humble, yet we are aspirational. We know we are the only country in the world that did not choke our supply chains for geopolitical leverage. We know that when the global order was hit by the pandemic, we put, without putting our economy at risk, humanity at the helm. 2047 deserves men and women like you to be the champions of change. And that is why I'm here today. This is not about one election. This is not about one prime minister. This is about a country that was waiting to take the pole position in the world. So in my introduction, I had said I'm the MP from Amethi, a seat which has seen 5 decades of dynasty and 5 years of just me. But in these 5 years, what has Prime Minister Modi given to that just one seat? 3 lakh people in Amethi, families, did not have a toilet. Which means out of a population of 25 lakh, if you count 4 people per family, 12 lakh people in Amethi, where there was 5 decades of a dynasty, did not have a toilet. 1 lakh people built their homes only in the past 5 years, which means 4 lakh people now have a home only in my constituency, thanks to Modi. And guess how many families got tap water for the first time? 4 lakh, which means 16 lakh people in just my constituency never had clean drinking water. And this is a constituency that has given India many prime ministers. And that's why I'm here today. I'm a witness to what happens when somebody champions change and development. The question is, will you just be witnesses, or will you become the ambassadors we all need and we deserve? So become a Viksit Bharat ambassador now. India needs you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. What we have witnessed today is a masterclass on India's success story in the last decade. I think on every front, ma'am has shown us that right from the Garib to Yuva Shakti to the Annadata to the Nari Shakti of the country, there is comprehensive work that has been done that has put India onto the path of Viksit Bharat. We will be now entering into an interactive round of questions. So if there are any questions from the audience, yes, ma'am. There's a question there. Could we have a mic, please, quickly?
Good evening, everyone. My question caters to the need for an emotionally balanced and a mentally resilient youth. As we see, as quickly as we are developing, there is work stress that is escalating at an equal rate. What about inculcating an elective or from our scriptures, as they are the secret to all the answers, why don't we introduce subjects which help youth deal with negativity with real life instances and prepare them for a better future?
I think that is provided for in the national education policy. But I also believe one of the instruments of that change is affected by the Prime Minister himself when he does Pariksha Pe Charcha. This year, over 2 crore 50 lakh students joined him, where he engages in a dialogue not only with the young, but essentially with also the parents and the family system that brings on or does not know how to actualize a solution with regards to stress. So while we have in the new education policy given a range of academic pursuits that can now be leveraged so that there is no systemic burden of a subset of academic pursuits that a child has to do, I also believe that the Prime Minister introducing the element of skilling is also something which is helping unburdening. But while the government has gone thus far on issues of change with regards to policy, I think on the issue of reducing stress and the burden of stress on the young, we as community and policymakers need to work together. So one of the greatest, I think, takeaways has been Pariksha Pe Charcha by the Prime Minister.
The question from the first row, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving me this
My
opportunity.
apologies, I'm sitting. Would the audience like me to stand?
No.
Kritika has taken the podium. Yes.
Ma'am, thank you so much for coming to Mumbai and addressing us. I have a quick question in the professional world, we see that a large number of women, especially after 10 or 15 years of work especially in the middle segment, they drop off due to childcare or other personal challenges they have to meet. And this eventually leads to a very small number of people or women as such in the boardroom. So how do we address this, especially because you are a woman leader, and I feel that this is a very important aspect to be addressed, especially with we going to 2040, 47, and we can't leave the women behind.
Thank you, ma'am.
I completely agree. I think that if you look at legislation and instruments of governance that help create equal opportunity for women in corporate India, that is also something that the Prime Minister himself, under the new labor law, has worked upon. The issue is, do you want the government to police the corporate? Which is where a free, fair, and mixed economy comes into play. So while the government has provided frameworks and legislative instruments to provide equal opportunities to women, irrespective of which part of the corporate ladder they're at right now, we need to make a financial case with regards to how women are to be perceived within the corporate structure. For instance, if you see the EV sector, which is an emerging sector, 1.5 million units sold in December 23. 30% of the workforce there is female, but the potentiality of female contribution to the EV segment to increase lies in the design sector, lies in the sector of servicing ancillary units or battery recharge or those kind of operations. Now, how do you get more and more women into those segments? You need to identify which are the growing subjects in your manufacturing stream where you can have more and more women cultivated. For instance, if you're looking at women getting into design and manufacturing in the automotive sector, you would want them to pursue higher education and possibly get those technology institutions for an interface with women. Now, if you look at the numbers of women now who are doing PhDs, because credits are now nationally movable, that number has gone up by 99%. The number of STEM graduates in our country who are women is 43%. So while the government is providing that kind of an ecosystem for women's skills and academic pursuits to be enhanced, we need the industry to respond. And we can only do that if we make a financial case for it. So if you look at the McKinsey report, which says that we will add $750 billion to our GDP by 2025 if we enhance women's participation, those are the cases we need to make. If you look at the case from JCB, JCB on its shop floor has a magnitude of women. They have, and this is subject to correction, they have delivered on 20,000 instruments the world over that have been manufactured by women, and on global standards with regards to precision manufacturing. Those are the cases that need to be spoken of. And that is how you create more and more opportunity for women.
Can we have the next question, please? And if you could just keep it crisp.
Yes, the lady in yellow.
The lady in yellow, please.
Yes, Zimbi. If you could just wait for the mic, madam.
Ma'am, you very rightly said that we have to make a case of financial numbers and data to prove how women are contributing to our economy. But what's happening is that we also need equal parenting and other pro laws, just like we have maternity leave, which is enabling women. Unless we have equal partnership in all of these stages where women drop out, we are not going to make a difference. So society also has to recognize, because right now women are just working hard at home and at work and proving all this.
Right.
Yes, I think that in terms of dropouts also, I had the privilege of serving as Education Minister when Prime Minister Modi had given the clarion call for building of toilets. He particularly wanted toilets built in all government schools separately for girls, because the minute the girls started their menstrual cycle, they would drop out for two reasons. One, no access to toilet. Second, no access to affordable sanitary napkins. We built, and he gave us a target of building toilets across all schools in just 1 year, which had never happened in India before. And we had, because it's a state subject, it's in the concurrent list, we had to collaborate with various state governments. We ended up building in that first year, between 2014 and 15, 440,000 toilets only in government schools across the country. But we digitally mapped each school. And that is why the dropout decreased. And then the Prime Minister spoke about the 1 rupee sanitary pad, which was not a conversation publicly ever done by any politician or any gentleman for that matter, that he spoke about it from the ramparts of the Red Fort, normalized that conversation around issues with regards to women. So like I said, the government has gone, Prime Minister Modi always says, "Main 10 kadam chalunga, aap 1 kadam chaliye." I think now is the time for communities, and that's why we are here imploring people to become Viksit Bharat ambassadors. What is that ambassador of change, right? That if you're a corporate leader and you talk about emancipation, you talk about empowerment, but you can't fix your own boardroom. So those are the reasons why we are asking for people to become Viksit Bharat ambassadors.
The next question, please. Yes, the lady in red.
Thank you so much. As you said, you're supposed to be a catalyst of change. And for Viksit Bharat, I want to start a podcast specifically for leadership, where we ensure that more women take up leadership roles. A lot of startups, they have good ideas, but they lack mentorship. They need right guidance. So for that, I want to aspire this, that through podcast, a lot of startups get right knowledge
I
and
think you should
insights.
also do some kind of an engagement with venture capitalists. Yes. Because they are happy to take a chance on men failing than female-led businesses failing. And that's where the problem is.
Yes. But I have a request. In future, I would want one podcast with you. for
Anytime.
leadership.
Thank you.
As you
Thank
can see by now, I love speaking. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes, the last question, please.
Is there any gentleman who is not overawed by all the lovely ladies who are speaking?
Ma'am.
Ah.
Okay, before, ma'am.
Yes.
I come from the armed forces and I have something to say.
Yes.
First of all,
You're a serving officer?
no, ma'am, retired. I have had a privilege to speak to you on Clubhouse during, I think, pandemic. And I come from eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, and I have seen the entire transformation which has happened, the building up of toilets and all. So when I was young, I used to go to, we used to go to our village every summer holidays.
Where in UP are you from?
At Jaunpur.
That's right next door. Yeah.
Yes. And on one specific summer holiday, I refused to take a shower or visit bathroom, all because there was no proper bathroom and things like that. The infrastructure was not there. And I remember the entire transformation that has happened. And we are 4 girls, 4 siblings, and the way things have turned out now because of Prime Minister Modi, people used to say to my parents, you have 4 girls, how are you going to marry them, or dowry and all of that. And I just wanted one opportunity. I worked hard and got into armed forces. And also the policies changed about inheritance of property. So all of those things I have seen with my own eyes. I have experienced. Also, I was in Italy with my father, and a gentleman very flirtatiously was asking me how.
So now that you've said Italy, you have my attention. But the issue is. The issue is that they are running out of time, and since you've served the country, we cannot be rude and disruptive with you. On behalf of all the audience members, let me say thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Can we have the last question, please, because we are running out of time.
Permanent commission.
Yes.
I'm very thankful and grateful to Prime Minister Modi and your government and yourself for doing that great job. However, in 2020 March, the Supreme Court gave the directive that every woman has now equal opportunity in armed forces. And there were so many cases in the AFT Armed Forces Tribunal or High Court and all of that, and they still exist. Despite this order, the cases are still lying. And
because it's sub judice and I'm on a constitutional position, I can't opine on the Supreme Court.
Ma'am, can
Thank
you just
you.
take
but the same government and same organization.
Ma'am, if we may now allow others
thank
to
you,
ask
ma'am.
a question.
Thank you.
And I
The
can't
last
speak for
question,
the.
can I ask?
Ma'am, since you've served in these services, I can't speak for the service chiefs. That is why, since it's a part of their realm of authority, I can't speak for the chiefs here.
The lady in red, that's the last question we'll be taking.
Yes.
Please, she's been raising her hand for a while, please.
All the
Can I have last one, because I've got spondylitis. I was raising my hand for that long time. If that's possible, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
I had both my arms up in the air.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. You're very kind.
Anybody else with spondylitis?
Ma'am. Okay. Only me, Smriti, ma'am.
Okay. The question, we'll just come back
Yes.
to your question, ma'am. The lady in red.
Ma'am, I'm quite highly honored to witness when you said the transformation from women development to women-led development. I'm a psychologist by profession, studied in Australia, London, and in Singapore. Currently, I want to serve India. And ma'am, I'm quite highly impressed the way we are leading through the women-led development country and the progress that we have been witnessing from 2013 to 2024. I have a small proposal that we have a department which is cruelty against women and child in Mantralaya. I am from Bombay. Being a psychologist, I would like to propose that I want to volunteer for a year, lead a team of at least 10 to 20 young women or counselors, professional counselors, because in India, we lack code of ethics and standardization for counselors and psychologists. In terms of
Ma'am, I will not get into the brass tacks with you, but you've taken a erroneous position. There's something called NIMHANS, which does a program called Sambad.
But it's not available everywhere.
It's available.
Just in Nimhans.
If you'd like Sambad to be available to you, please contact Kritika. We've already serviced and worked with over 140,000 counselors in the country. We are happy to add you to the mix.
Ma'am, we'll be in touch with
That's
you.
fine.
Thank you.
there.
I would like to propose that
Ma'am,
I would
ma'am,
like to serve.
Yes,
Ma'am,
you
we'll
can
be
get in
touch
touch
with
with
you.
Kritika.
I'll be in touch with you.
The gentleman
Just have the
behind
next
you.
question.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for giving me a chance. So I come
All
from
the men here are rooting for you, so you better make it good.
So the question is for you, ma'am. Of course, thanks everybody.
Yes.
So I come from the VC side of the world, right? So we can pick up the podcasting later, but now that I have an opportunity.
Later, pay up to all women-led businesses.
Absolutely, ma'am. That's where my question is coming from. So of course, we saw all the good things on the slides there. One of the things that I would want to add on to that is our startup ecosystem today in India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the globe, with the second best innovation, right? So that's something that all of us should be proud of, right? Having said that, only 0.03% of the funding has gone to women entrepreneurs. Okay?
Yes, we know.
Yeah. That's something that all of us together need to work upon.
That's why I said the minute you introduce yourself, pay up.
Absolutely, ma'am. I agree to that. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where we as a company, Venture Wolf, do events, right? We would love to invite you.
Of course, you're a typical VC. You'd like me to work free for you, but pay up.
Thank you. So the last question, the lady in green. Yes.
Yes,
No, no.
lady here.
Yes, we need to give her a chance, ma'am, please.
Check. Firstly, Smriti ma'am, I really felt it was an amalgamation of Ma Durga and Ma Saraswati in a boardroom. It was really epic and thoroughly impressive. My
Remember,
question
you have spondylitis, so make it quick.
Yes.
Yes.
So, ma'am, I'm a Kashmiri Pandit myself, and I was born in the year when Exodus happened. So, thank you so much for the abrogation of Article 370. I'm just curious to know for someone who is not really stayed in Kashmir, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I know for a fact a lot of funding is going in J&K. How can a person like me know that funds are accessible to me because I'm an entrepreneur in need of money? So, is there any
those
clarity
funds
there?
are available for people who will own up and operate enterprises and businesses in Jammu and Kashmir. So if you're interested in doing that, through Kritika, we will give you the industrial policy of Jammu and Kashmir, and we can guide you to the offices of the industry minister so that you can be supported.
That would be
if
very
you're owning and operating and building a business in Jammu and Kashmir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The last question, please.
Yes,
sir.
another gentleman that the men are rooting for. Yes.
Amazing presentation, and you are so eloquent. I have one quick question.
Yes.
That is such fantastic achievement that this government has achieved over the last 10 years. What can we do to actually get this voice out in the West? Somehow the media
Become
in
the Viksit Bharat ambassador. Don't limit yourself to only this country. Wherever you go, carry all of that. And if you need more, we are happy to give you the numbers. Go defend your country because your country needs you and we deserve better. So go out and become that ambassador.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much. We're running out of time. If I may invite Yashraj ji to please give the vote of thanks. Grateful to him and Vishal ji for putting this together for us.
I know, ma'am, this was so enthusiastic. I mean, wow. You know, I started 15 years ago when India had a problem of showing solutions. You know, but today I started my day by meeting a person who's detecting cancer early and building a flying car too. Yeah. You know, we live in a new India, and I really want to thank ma'am for coming here today. And thanks to Hitesh ji, Ashish ji, Vishal, Akanksha, Aniket, and Kritika, and the Rigger team for here. And thank you to the crowd. This is crazy.